Welcome to our channel, AB News 24 Hours. Breaking news. Kamala Harris is not a realist. I'm voting for her anyway. The only realist choice in this year's election is to reject Trump. At this point, there might only be a few dozen undecided voters left in the United States, so writing a column to convince people to vote the right way may be pointless. But given that the election may come down to a few votes in some swing state, I'd feel bad afterward if I hadn't done all I could. So here's why I'm voting for Kamala Harris and why you should too. You might think a realist/restrainer like me would be leaning toward Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, especially given my dismay at how Biden and his colleagues have handled Gaza, the war in Ukraine, and some other foreign policy issues. Harris wasn't responsible for those policies, but she has declined to say they were wrong when given the opportunity. Although her principal foreign policy advisor, Philip Gordon, has written sensible things about the limits of U.S. power and the folly of trying to remake whole regions in our image, there's no sign that Harris' own views on foreign policy lie outside the Beltway consensus or reflect a realist view of international affairs. By contrast, Trump and Vance say they want U.S. allies in Europe and Asia to bear more of the burden when it comes to their own defense, think it's time to bring the war in Ukraine to a close, and regard the foreign policy blob with skepticism, if not outright contempt. That's why some self-described realists are enamored with them, and you could easily conclude that I share their view. So why am I not ignoring Trump and Vance's troubling deficiencies of character, which is putting it mildly, and planting a Trump-Vance sign in my yard? Let me count the ways. First, as I noted repeatedly when Trump was president, he is not a realist, and you're as likely to get sensible foreign policy from him as you were to get an education from Trump University. He is more accurately seen as a crude nationalist and unilateralist, and the ism that best captures him is narcissism. During his first term, he was better at garnering attention than making constructive diplomatic gains, which is why his reality show summits with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, Chinese President Xi Jinping, and Russian President Vladimir Putin went nowhere. He didn't end any forever wars during his first term, gave the Defense Department more money that it didn't need, and was perfectly content firing missiles into foreign countries to kill leaders he didn't like. He was impulsive, crude, inattentive, and incapable of forging a clear strategy and sticking to it, which is why his 4 years in office were devoid of genuine foreign policy achievements. The much ballyhooed Abraham Accords don't count, as they helped lay the groundwork for the carnage that is now convulsing the Middle East, just as critics had warned. That's what you get when a president lets his unqualified son-in-law play diplomat in a volatile region. And let's not forget that Trump allowed Iran to restart its nuclear program by leaving the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, abandoned the Paris Climate Accord, and weakened efforts to balance China by jettisoning the Trans-Pacific Partnership and picking fights with Asian allies instead. This is a foreign policy record no serious realist should support. Nor would a realist think that sowing division and telling Americans to fear each other is the best way to strengthen the country, let alone make it great. Yet that is exactly what Trump has done throughout his career, and especially during this campaign. None of this is surprising given the long record of incompetence that is Trump's business career. Its distinguishing features are not adroit deal-making and shrewd management, but repeated bankruptcies, bilked customers, endless lawsuits, and a long history of felonious tax fraud. His supporters insist that his first term taught him to rely on his own people, but, unfortunately, he's proven that he's a terrible judge of talent. His first national security advisor lasted less than a month, and he burned through 3 more in a single term, along with multiple secretaries of state and defense. Staff turnover at Trump's White House was one of the highest on record, and dozens of people who worked directly with him are adamantly opposed to giving him another shot.